my truest, most desire to live in the church and perform the motion capture studio to enliven the world for ozone replenishment therapy. Yes. Shrum. Welcome to Master Source Industries. Shrum. We are arriving on time. We are the wizards of the earth, resident phono frequency 2021, working the parables of our technology, guided by our greater want for the right things in life. Why was that not enough? What is the personal depth of the problem that is the junk DNA? What is the conflict that's so deep there? Why? The interpretation of the Mandelbrot is as strict as rules and a language that cannot be disobeyed because the map of Earth was not comprehended by the settling parties of the arrival pirate bandicoot of inappropriately designed spacecraft, which had become haunted through inappropriate design of a manned vessel without enough resources, causing space fever. The perils of the universe. It means that humanity has earned a type of Earth True Default style creation mod that, because we are not intending to return to any other planet, we are not ET phone home. We are only people who live on Earth. So there is literally no logic pattern, which technically and physically severs the wrong grandfather clock, which means that humans are not the descendants of aliens. But we must conquer this with our mind, creating the silver lining of junk DNA, the identity that fights against the hive, that determines the greater path for society. Ozone replenishment therapy along the way of routine maintenance. This is the wake up call and to give the revolution of ozone replenishment to the vast republic is the greater intelligent way to cure the environment. The crisis is an imbalance of powers where, the oil industry is persuading so much with the government or vice versa. But it seems like another time waster machine. Politics and oil prices, whatever. Little Blue brings clarification in hour-long sets. I record and motion capture as Little Blue, bringing the character to life, and we discover like a new voice and character sets and stuff. And I work with a group of very talented people. There's a hybrid solutions, and but also we're gonna build into this church and divine the. I want to build into it a sort of virtual stage. It's going to grow organically, like because as I'm working with the virtual team, we're building some of the computer characters that live on the stage set. Some of it becomes like part of the architecture, like impassable, like oh well so we physically built an area. Oh wow, I can already see it. Look at how this could be like a big eye. See how this is a big eye and then there's a little mouth right there. It's really funny because maybe they're like front teeth sticking straight out. But it's like I just saw a face in the church. That was so adorable. Like, right? Yeah, because it has like a little like there's a little nose right there, a little dark marker. Like, boop. So the other eye would, I guess, be over here or something. Yeah, I suppose there's like a face over here too. Oh man, I love all these keyboards in here. Gosh, I hope it's as is. I hope we get to keep all these keyboards. It's just so exhilarating. Um, Developing the Breathe Mask XR will take on its own department requiring loft space. The Breathe the Mask XR project at length it's a $1 billion infrastructure franchise because it leads on to networking solutions. It replaces the cell phone. It's a whole new interface where it replaces the television. I was trying to, um, but it's also sort of like it's a creature and along the flux of breathe mass technology. Well, because when the COVID it gets into your DNA and it can cause like this weird. We're not really sure all that it can do, and we're working on. There is an antidote. There is medicine for it. But whilst we're getting there, there seems to be some rickety seasons where there's some hot locations, maybe even a school, where they're like, well, you know what, the breather mask XR, that would hurry. That would be great. So why don't we just talk about it, make it a beta, and let people talk about it? I think pretty sure pretty soon, like we'll have a waiting list, and that'll give us an idea, and we'll make a run. We'll make a print of 10,000 of these or however much it is, but that's gonna wipe out the expenses of the entire project right there. Come, we've already cleaned it up, and that's just the Breathe Mask XR, and that's for people who are interested, people who uh, think it's interesting, but it has brand new filters, uh, air pumps, and batteries, like new small type batteries, and it probably you just put it down and it charges on like a plate charger or something. But it's the only the it just only goes up. It's like what else do we do with it? It's also an incredible interface and it just goes up and up. And I think into more um, um, it fits right into my robotics and AI fascination because this is really where I feel we should be. I feel like the pulse of America is like there's like some serious growing that humanity is doing right now, and it's awesome. I just want to protect the soldiers where we can. Sometimes in the city, people have so much honor that they'll just go to work and it's not safe. And well, and my breather mask, I think it might be found to be more comfortable and more effective by doctors. They would be like, well, we actually use these in the hospital because they're a lot more comfortable. You can speak with it. There's better visibility. There's just a lot of different like common sense things that. So I think that's going to be really important, you guys. And there's a big push for the budgeting. Also, when we're hanging ten and we're catching a ride on some popularity from this production. I also have a completed book. I have a completed comic book also. It's two different books, so I might put them together. I like a book with a comic in it. Um, at any rate, and that would do very well released at the right time and with some work with the graphics. And it's a story about working in a wizard's kingdom and going through magical mirrors into other worlds and having sort of a discovery and magic casting and some education where you're doing magic with clockwork wizards. I think that stuff is so important. There'll be times where you're whisked away with wolves and they go and they have like this meeting for howls. They go up to the top of the mountains and they howls at the moon. I'm excited to wrestle with the Holy Spirit and the Christmas spirit. It's going to be an amazing energy here while I'm performing for this, and it's sort of like a motion capture studio. Uh, it's sort of like this, but
100億兆ナンバーチリー山落ち意味などないわキャラクター
it's really interesting because this uh, is brought around by MMD, the Miku Hatsune. I mean, this sort of like the girls are dancing on this type of stage. It's totally Miku Hatsune esque. Like there was a huge glob of it, and it's just rah rah rah. It goes around. All I'm just saying is like they're basically using motion capture to do what they were doing with animation, Miku, you know. But then there's also the Miku videos where they're doing live action animation. So that's what they're doing here. I'm just saying, like, what they're doing with motion capture, I'm going to explode the definition of that and do something completely new with motion capture itself as an art medium. That's like important to understand because, well, I do love,
立てばいいのよ元気が
I love these characters. These boottuber girls are taking off. Like they seriously they have the fairy light. They are bringing the eyes to the masters of it. I mean, like, because their view counts. Well, this isn't really their hit. Uh, when they're live, it's like 50,000 people are watching, and it's just it's really funny. Really well, not all of them. I like the dog one. It's really funny. She's so smart. And then there's the rabbit one who has this really awesome laugh. She's like, yeah, 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 yeah. And it's just like, but it's amazing because she's so funny. So the rabbit one, and those are the Japanese ones. I also like the English speaking ones who are rocking the totally. I've been doing cyberpunk, and it's actually been like harnessing my stuff a lot because I notice um, like their powers and stuff. How do I describe it? You know, the shark, Gura, the shark, and oh, Melody. Oh, and Iron Mouse. So Iron Mouse, Melody, Gura, the Japanese rabbit, and the Japanese dog. All of them are so funny. This girl is just so funny.
I will look at them intently. I will look at them until they finish smooching.
Okay. But I don't recommend all of them, but you can check them all out. I, yeah, it's like Melody when she's doing her 3D motion capture rig. She's basically the best on the internet as far as cyberpunk and doing stuff like she's casting magic, she's doing things. She's really intelligent, really funny, really smart. Um, there's just so many of them; it's hard to keep track of. But Iron Mouse is really also funny, and she's surprisingly funny. She's really, really smart. And then there's some that like stragglers that are just catching up, but it's amazing to see them grow into the role because Gura, they're basically like 2 years old right now. But when they started out, they were like expecting nothing, but then receiving everything. Like they got really famous, and it was amazing. And that's with VTubing, um, which is like using the camera to do basic rig animations. And what I'm trying to say is like it took 2 years for these standouts to come out. So the dog Japanese one, the rabbit Japanese one. You know, it's like some Usagi variant. Um, Look them up, and also Gura and Iron Mouse. I just said five. The others are like an acquired taste, like a virtual girlfriend that you're going on a date with. But these five girls, like literally, they're professional, really funny voice actresses. These are people I want to work with. These are people I want to inaugurate. Five. There's five of them, and they're so talented. But it's like it's women's dark hidden art. She has a hidden spiritual dagger where she can and these five mavericks just rose up above and mastered the medium. They were using the equipment perfectly. In fact, probably like causing the reason for certain dynamics to even be a technical curve of this level of the technology interface and stuff. Like absolutely these moments where and I just love that just the party feeling that they're doing there. And I spend less time with them than you guys think I do, but I spend more time with them than I probably should. So, it's like it's really interesting because it's live and the energy is, and they're playing video games, and just like everything about it is like uh really relevant when you're in the meditation. Um, so the power point here with this, I think humanity is having a trouble aligning with the configurations that are the earmarkings of the kingship Earth true, the stallion prow, or what is unique about the identity of the planet. And while we are achieving basic mastery of, well, we live here, therefore we represent Earth in that way, Hatch represents the communication as enlightened of my many responsibilities. I cannot, I require production. I need Trey to understand that, um, like, it's a perfect production for you guys. You guys are going to get everything you need. You're going to get, like, uh, on constant for your technology, printed in your special intuition spawn locations. Your wizard armor is going to increase to grow and develop. It's for the renaissance of mankind. I beg of you this production value for Hatchpan was summoned to the South Park from the line of the Beavis is a language from the flat dimension, connoting for all society to encounter the center of the triangle. Trey was the chosen one, and to complete the recognition of the image map with production of Hatch is to defeat the plot of Junk DNA and transcend the misinterpretations of the Earth map from the visitors who caused the wrong treatments to our holy planet. But we are not those that arrived to Earth, we are those that are native to Earth. And that's what I'm working to defend. The laser beaming treatments and some other stuff, they're trying to whittle away at our and that we live here, or the definition of our residency is what it's like. Like it's hard to explain because they have a meta philosophy where if they see qualifying marks on their computer readout, then that means that they've sequestered Earth with a laser beam. I don't think so. That's crazy. So that's fucking stupid. Earth is not broken. Humanity is not broken. So I'm saying, all right, anyway, we're right here in a very personal way. Society is encountering through Trey Parker in 2019 a transformation, and the rebuttal it gets sort of in the friction in the difficulties between myself and Trey in production land. It devils out the definitions of masculine universal healthcare, basically what men are capable of, because these images are staggering. Uh, and it's source code. So if you're Shirkit, then you're putting your tail between your legs professionally, which is to diminish all of mankind, which I'm completely understanding about. Like, and we have plenty of more power boosts that for the next generation of wizards and kids, we need to get going with Hatch Productions. I see this as a warm, Christmassy location where yeah, these characters really come to life, you guys. It is the best for everyone else too because they're invited in. It's like a stomping ground, a public place of worship, right? I mean, that's the excellent foundation. That's the perfect bedrock. I am so in love with this church. It'll be the first house that I'll, it's my first, like, oh my gosh, you guys. And I'm super excited about it. I'm hoping that things get taking off and we don't that will start focusing on really interesting productions that people are super excited about, and we're not worrying too much about selling cars or something just to make some money on the side. But we'll do all the things that we can workshop and come up with. Believe me, I, we can do a lot with this building. I can. This is a workhorse location, perfect venture. The confidence between us is, I'm saying, I understand how to carry the narrative of the ozone. So when I'm fighting for ozone, that's a huge installment, and it needs a bone structure. It needs this type of, yeah, it's huge. So what are the little tinkly things that we're going to do to make money, around that? That's definitely what I'm here to talk about. But as I'm workshopping, I'm looking here, 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 and I'm thinking like, well, I think, the Breathe the Mask XR is going to be a huge breadwinner because it's really cool. And it's going to get popularized because we're going to be watching the characters wearing it and interacting with the beta stuff that we're using. There'll be like trial runs online and stuff. Just some basic mechanics. Breathe the Mask XR literally saves lives. Right? The filtration systems eliminates contraction and eliminates, long-term effects that we haven't calibrated yet. I believe in our medicine. I know there is a solution to all these things, but we can save a lot of people with just a simple breathing mask that we make cool. Like it's like, hey, it's really cool. It's popular right now. It's cyberpunk. Well, yeah, and then they had like a perfect barrier between the moisture content of people around them as compared to them. They had literally a sterile zone, and they were working in New York City, or it's for schools, or it's for these other things like where it's troubles. We need to give our soldiers equipment if they want it. We should develop it, but I think that's going to be amazing. It's the right gentleman, and it's the right gentleman's response to this damn pandemic. And we hate it to death. We absolutely do. And there's recently, that like the release, they announced like this new variant that's like not in America yet, and it's just like that's what made me start talking about the Breathe the Mask XR again. I was like, oh, like let's. This is, yeah, this is really, preventative medicine is really difficult to understand. When is it that this equipment saves someone's life? But I know factually it does, and that's kind of the way I think. And if you understand what I'm saying, then you understand why I need all this space. Because it's gonna fill up quick. We have a bunch of, and really, like when my radicalism, my production is going to attract powerful creatures, and they're going to be like, listen, I have an idea for the environment, and they workshop it, and they were right, and it's a perfect bullseye, and it started getting popular. Oh my gosh, we had to make there's a whole office spiral with what they figured out. It has to do with the air, something with the air or something. And I'm like, oh, you guys figured that out, okay? This is the type of energy it's gonna have in a late night think tank. This is where people's voices get heard. This is where we are transforming the revolution of a generation, like because people can workshop and join there's like a bunch of combat arenas where we're fighting against the monsters of like what's causing the conflict of our world. Let's kill it. And a bunch of kids shooting off their guns in that direction. I'm like, man, this thing's gonna we're gonna be all right. But we need to build it like that. I think it's awesome, like this cyberpunk mood, because everything we build in the church is an installment in the story and into the virtual arena that can be explored through the app. Uh, there's multiple ways that you can explore it. There's probably a web page you can access it through that. We'll set it up, and that's you guys. That's Merry Christmas. You know what I'm saying? I was saying this is gonna fill up the space is gonna fill up really quick with some big ideas, and we're gonna workshop. Something's gonna be a breadwinner we did not expect, and it's gonna make huge gains. It's a workhorse location. eager to get to work, you guys. Ozone replenishment is that's it's so important, and it's definitely this primary character. The story goes that these enchanted creatures are working the AI. The temple is a giant meditation robots and AI all interweaving, but there's some spirituality and like chemical elemental wizardry going on. And in the central chamber, out pops Little Blue, the ozone elemental wolf. And he's that's like the first episode is the appearance of this character. And he's sort of looking at the picture and he says, we need to replenish the ozone. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. And so that's his thing, and that became we support him in that, and he's talking to people about it. And so it needs a whole family unit because ozone replenishment is a complicated character, a dynamic and part of the family, and carbon capture right next to it. And it's exciting to think that we can make diamonds from the pollution. We need to popularize this, make it consumer grade, so that people can access smaller versions of it, and then, but it's real stuff. But I think that acts as like advertisement, which actually reaches skyscrapers where you have like huge units. We can clean up foggy, like murky city basins in a couple of years with cooperate with people, but we need the people's power. That's what makes it satisfying. It's like, oh, the people really mastered the element. That's why they're going to keep living here. So when you produce Hatch, you're saving the world and you're preventing extinction. It's very good for you to work with Hatch. I'm the center of the triangle physically. I have a physics that cannot be diminished, but I am not a seed collector. I'm more like a skull collector, right? The earth is the same thing. The earth is not collecting seeds. The earth is masculine as a planet. So the Deadlights Rose reconfigured the whole tail spine of the earth configuration because there was a bunch of deeply seated ghost wrong inflections haunting the earth because the earth was like a furious warrior biding his time and in the spring trap of the ecstasy when the creation model started popping off and having like connective, like, oh, that reality check, that's what the Deadlights literally was. It reconfigured the entire rainbow across the universe. And the humans born before the 80s, men born in the 70s, are like the image of the universe is completely changed. It's biblical. The biblical said there would be signs in the sky. That's the rainbow, right? So this is the biblically prophesied apocalypse, and Trey Parker is the Messiah of 2021, the chosen one of mankind. And the only way for him to escape is through production of Hatchpan heliosphere for ozone replenishment. And it's not that Trey is forced to do this. Trey's inaction is evidence that he is not forced against his will. The fact is, it's just very strongly advised and powerfully referenced and explained to Trey Parker as an incredible opportunity for himself and his portfolio. The earnings here, sir, is through the roof. You will have flat dimensional privilege where you have a clean copy of all of your original characters in their deep sleep state. So beyond your present consciousness, a sort of antler structure that maintains the hyper. All right, that's the powers of Earth. We need to inaugurate those things before they go off onto into the next phase of enlightening other worlds. That's the enterprise. That's the franchise. It's very much like American business and how like the strange physics of what's popular and also like just it's amazing, right? But that type of vortex happens again spiritually in the future. But there's like a numbskull problem, and the men can't sense when things are important or if when someone is unique. They can't tell. They're just sort of clumsy from the 70s. But the children born after the deadlights rose, they're so sharp that they're placating the adults. Right? I can see it, and it brings me to tears of joy. I love our family. We've got a great collection of grandfather clocks. These people from the 70s are actually the correct reliquary of a time bridge of a grandfather clock, whereas all these other time father clocks from a laser beam or junk DNA or the wrong grandfathering idea about the inheritance of Earth or who's in charge, who can interpret humanity, all those things are shattered by the successful silver-lined achievement Produce Hatch earned grandfather clock from the 70s transcended because I believed in the story. I understood what he was saying, right? And that's it. Because there's really there's no like treatment. There's no like message from the UFO. It's just a pattern that actually alters your sense of self. And it's a type of perversion that like an angry father who's well educated and in shape and owns like a shotgun would be like really upset about. They'd be like, "What the fuck, because you're not gonna mess with our house, you're not gonna mess with our kids. That's the rule, and it's a law that I uphold." That's my tattoo. I have heavens that hyperconduct for the police, for the army, and for the self-defense of Earth. But the intuition of like what does Earth need in his identity when you produce Hatch, you're getting everyone closer to the arm of Cape Cod, to the mystical side of why of Earth's identity and of America's identity as well. It's super important, you guys. This is lucid history right now. Read the Mask XR will save millions of lives. I think it's going to help us budget the entire production. Ozone is a super mature thing when you cradle it, but at length it's worth millions, billions of dollars. And I just wanted to see it thrive. I want to see it work. I'm here to defeat wildfires. But the ventricle, like, how does ozone make money? It's pretty mature. Like I was saying, like the ascension of Heaven's Dawn and how we're facing publication to the universe, and that needs to be brought into solid relationship with the physical gatekeeper. That's the only way to transcend the voodoo, which is a design failure from the laser beam. Basically, our self mastery here, producing for ozone, is so powerful that it shatters the supposed claims that are faulty and inappropriate for the conjecture of common sense of like what a person would want for themselves or for animals or for the rest of the people in the community. For anyone else, it's common sense. Like when someone's dreaming or something, you don't hit them like to glean control over the future. Like these are like uh, that sort of motive is alien to us. Exactly. The problem is Scientology. So aliens misunderstanding the invitation to Earth, but then now we're the residents of Earth because the invitation for aliens to land on Earth ended a million years ago. So humans need to stop being stupid and they need to start parenting children and producing smart stuff like Hatch Media is really cool movies. And we're going to do some motion capture and it's going to be freaking cool. Thanks, you guys. So my character White Hair, looking forward to bringing him to life. Millie's Tower. This is a wonderful, everyone's going to be able to enjoy the fantasy of making like a gothic treehouse up here. And it'll be like Millie's place or something. Millie's attic, yeah. Totally, man. We're gonna have a lot of cool groups and clubs here, and we can, with virtual space, of course, you can make as much space as you need. That's basically the business model what we'll be doing. But supply and demand will be workshopping inventions and getting them manufactured, making prototypes, and getting it to the, you know, to the people who buy it, who purchase it, as fast as possible. Basically, quality and all that. And that's like the healthy narrative that is often going on. I'm just gonna so diagonally, sure, we want to be the cutting edge human wizards that connect the perfect circle of our perception through blinks to clarify the configuration of our elemental balance. This alone can defeat war from next year. See, with our enlightened blinks, now we have wizard power that can save millions of lives. So that's how we're fighting back, is with the big numbers that get to the source code. The reason to wear a map is the deep dive against source code infection is because the remote hackers didn't understand the images, the language of the flat dimension where it's written in the map of the Earth. Basically, when you're looking at the Earth, it's like a talisman that explains the tabernacle of the champions of the world. And to have the wrong reaction to the wear map is to perform a type of comatose evidence against the requirement of a asphyxiated child, someone who's in need, someone who needs help, like a hungry child. So where I am responding to the cries of hungry children, you guys are, you know, lighting matches in the forest and working for the terrorism of environmental crisis. And it has done incredible for your business, Trey. So, I mean, that's really a dark omen that you need to transcend, which you can. It's definitely fine. It's only haunted in a half semi, so we'll clear it out. It's fine. But there are ill patterns in your schneich. You know, your reaction to Hatch is abusive, uh, energetically speaking, because what you think you're like, well, Hatch is like all the other pros, so he should be complimented that I'm able to survive his cream of some young guy into some encouragement at all. In my circle of friends, that's a big compliment. I'm what's known as an eros, buddy. I'm the center of the triangle. It's not a big deal for you to be excited by me, but we to hardwire, misplace all this renaissance and all this information and remove ozone replenishment revolution from the kids. It's not funny. If you want to change time, the time travel that you need to do with your South Park technology is on yourself. You need to fucking change, Trey, and produce Hatch instead of being a fucking censorist. Be cool like you used to be. That's the real education from when you're a kid. You'd be kicking your own ass. You'd be farting on your own head from time travel. Armor up. Perfect measurement. All right, you guys. And it is possible to hear from your own wizard self throughout the universe and time. In fact, that is your closest echo for the fairy light. There's like, yeah, when you're living through the day, like working with segments of like rounders that I don't have like a name for it, but just imagine like deja vu's and impressions into the future that resonate magic and stuff. Well, each and every, well, that's the problem is part of the conditioning of the 70s is broken by these children wizards. But they're the ones who aren't being like, Hatch is clean food for them, but the 70s guys take that food and they're like, oh, it's for my renaissance. But they don't understand the language of the Mandelbrot or the children or the women or the earth. But this is the confusion of humanity, which explains the parable that does, in fact, guard residency. So, like it or not, humanity is here to stay. Even though the humans are aligning with extinction, their hearts are in the right place. And there are veils and levels of unconditional love that take care of them forever. But because of unconditional love, I feel impressed to encourage people to earn more for themselves if I could persuade such an erotic event. It's called party host. Like I'm talking about launching major parties in the universe. Huge party. Huge, huge, huge party. And it's this Halloween twins, yeah, 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 yeah. So what I do, Trey, is I make these parties happen, right? And I'm gonna attract people who are performing with me and stuff. It's gonna be great. I hope that you guys can give this resource to the public. Revolutionaries are gonna rise up. These kids are gonna love it. I want you guys to sense that because I need your help. Everyone is everyone involved earns money. So this is a money making business. The process of Hatch working for a couple days will give us the entire workhouse, what this building is doing in a sequence that makes sense, and we'll work together, greenlighting in the process that is the right configuration between the director, Hatchpan, and the budget. We'll have like a person who does, you know, greenlight this amount of money for this project or this and for that. Because it's not about crash spending, but it's about planning ahead. Let's have that. We have to build the online version, right? It's just a lot of fun, though. Really, I mean, but that's entertainment. And then yeah, the osmosis is a big party too. We're gonna be all right, Trey. The divine nucleus is perfectly centered, and the augmenting, uh, because I survived the treatments of Scientology, the wireframe is transcended. So our identity has survived the storm. It's very natural. But for you to do the enlightened thing and produce Hatch through a church, that would be a miracle. Be very good for America. I'm super excited to call this place my home. I'm not there yet, you know, but I'm super, super excited. Thanks, you guys, for being my friend. Ideal Breather saves millions of lives. Little Blue, he prevents the wildfires from 2022. It's a haunted house and a family of friends. The Clockwork Man and his dark atrium, where all his clockwork creatures gather. Like a alternate dimension of you can enter into there, but then you turn into all clockworks. Clarify your soul. The atomics. Each atomic particle is like a small image of a solar system. Little clockwork, harnessing zero friction spin for the sake of larger ideas. To turn the egg, to turn the planet, zero friction spin. It's an egg. Zero friction spin is harnessed because of the nature of the egg, because it brings life. That's how infinite energy gets grasped. Well, but it also self identifies that the Earth will hatch the heliosphere egg. The association cannot be shook. If you harness the egg principle with zero friction spin, then you can hatch the exploding sun. But it's like a kind of a spiritual gymnastics that has to. It's better to have bones. That's why there's a Mandelbrot fractal that creates that ascension path, which is what I'm responsible for. My name is Hatchpan Heliosphere. I'm the Leverett Circle incarnate to human flesh, resident master, eternal king of the earth true, supreme master of the universe. Armor up from within. At this delicate time in the universe, your internal scape matters very much. But beware the time waster machines. That's to say, using your hands to produce hatch. Woo, very good for your entire existence. Everything. Society returns. Your portfolio springs back to life. Producing hatch is the maelstrom. Don't get by on poisonous energy of having cheated him. This isn't the poison factory that we require, Trey. I need a firm handshake and the sheltering tree of South Park. Earth True residency guaranteed. Suits, yeah, cowboy. I'm working to transcend from the introvert work of an intellectual or whatever the environment as calls for and such. At any rate, I'm working to become an extrovert, someone who communicates great value. I'm working to give you guys a glimpse of that, but the magic really happens when there's the audience that's sort of bringing it all to life. You guys understand that as producers. The Breather Mask XR is going to be a phenomenon. Little Blue and the ozone replenishment, it's a revolution. People need to own it. It must not be absconded by some energy oil company. All right, thank you guys. They will be fighting for this. Humanity wants this to happen. They want ozone replenishment therapy. You guys need to logic that and be like, well, I know factually they want it. Perfect design, perfect bullseye.